The email notification popped up on Zara's phone at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday that would change everything. She was sitting in her corner office, reviewing quarterly reports when the company-wide announcement appeared in her inbox. The subject line read, "Exciting news, new CEO announcement." Her heart stopped. After 12 years of building Sterling and Associates from the ground up alongside her husband Nathan, she knew this moment was supposed to be hers. But as she opened the email, her world crumbled. "We are pleased to announce that Candace Morrison will be stepping into the role of Chief Executive Officer, effective immediately. Candace brings fresh perspectives and innovative ideas that will drive our company forward." The words blurred as Zara read them twice, then 3 times. Candace Morrison. The 28-year-old marketing coordinator who had been with the company for barely 2 years. Zara's hands shook as she scrolled through the rest of the announcement. There was praise for Candace's exceptional leadership qualities and her unique vision for the company's future. Not a single mention of Zara's contributions, despite the fact that she had landed every major client they currently served. The Harrison Tech contract alone was worth $950,000 annually, and that was her baby from start to finish. Her phone buzzed with text messages from confused colleagues. "Is this a joke?" wrote Tom from accounting. "What about you?" asked Jennifer from HR. Zara couldn't respond. She was too busy trying to process what felt like a nightmare. Nathan hadn't even had the decency to tell her privately. She had to find out through a company email like everyone else. The office suddenly felt suffocating. Zara grabbed her purse and walked out without saying a word to anyone. In the elevator, she caught her reflection in the polished steel doors. Her dark skin looked ashen, and her usually perfect natural hair seemed to have lost its luster in just minutes. She was a beautiful woman who had always carried herself with confidence, but right now she felt invisible. During the drive home, Zara's mind raced through the past few months. All those late nights when Nathan claimed to be working on big-picture strategy. The times Candace would pop into meetings with ideas that sounded suspiciously similar to concepts Zara had mentioned to Nathan in private conversations at home. The way Nathan had been distant lately, claiming stress but never wanting to talk about it. The pieces were falling into place in the most painful way possible. This wasn't just about the CEO position. This was about betrayal on every level she could imagine. Her husband had not only passed her over for a promotion she deserved, but he had given it to someone who Zara now suspected was much more than just an employee. As she pulled into their driveway, Zara noticed Nathan's car was already there. Unusual for a Tuesday afternoon, especially one where he should be dealing with the fallout from such a major announcement. But then again, maybe there was no fallout to deal with. Maybe everyone else had seen this coming except her. She sat in her car for 10 full minutes, staring at the house they had bought together 7 years ago. The house where they had planned to raise children someday. The house where she had spent countless evenings working on proposals and presentations that built the company Nathan had just handed over to another woman. When Zara finally walked through the front door, Nathan was in the living room, pacing back and forth with his phone pressed to his ear. He looked up when he heard her heels on the hardwood floor, and she saw something in his eyes she had never seen before. Guilt mixed with defiance, like a child caught stealing cookies but determined to defend his actions. "I have to go," he said into the phone quickly. "We'll talk later." He hung up and turned to face his wife, but Zara was already walking up the stairs. "Zara, wait. We need to discuss this." She stopped on the landing and looked down at him. "Discuss what, Nathan? How you promoted your girlfriend to run the company I helped build? Or how you didn't have the courage to tell your wife before announcing it to the entire staff?" Nathan's face went pale. "She's not my girlfriend. That's ridiculous." But the way he said it, the slight pause before the denial, told Zara everything she needed to know. The woman who had just been named CEO of Sterling and Associates wasn't just taking Zara's professional position. She was taking her entire life. Zara continued up the stairs without another word. She needed time to think, to process, to figure out what came next. Because one thing was becoming crystal clear. Everything she thought she knew about her marriage, her career, and her future had just been destroyed in the span of one afternoon. As she closed the bedroom door behind her, Zara could hear Nathan pacing downstairs, probably calling Candace back. The woman who was now sleeping with her husband and running her company. But if Nathan thought Zara would simply accept this betrayal and fade quietly into the background, he was about to learn just how wrong he could be. That evening, Nathan attempted to explain himself over dinner, but his words only made things worse. They sat across from each other at the dining table where they had celebrated countless business victories, the silence stretching between them like a chasm. "Zara, you have to understand. The board wanted fresh leadership. Nathan began, cutting his steak with unnecessary force. Someone who could bring new energy to the company. Zara set down her fork and stared at him. What board, Nathan? We are the board. It's our company. You, me, and your father who retired 3 years ago. There is no mysterious board of directors making these decisions. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. Well, the investors want it. What investors? Zara's voice was dangerously quiet. We're privately held. We've never taken outside investment. Try again. For the first time in their 15-year relationship, Nathan looked genuinely afraid of his wife. Zara had always been the calm one, the problem solver, the one who found diplomatic solutions when he lost his temper. But there was something different in her voice now, something he had never heard before. Fine, he said, abandoning his weak excuses. I think Candace has qualities that make her perfect for this role. She's innovative, she's hungry for success, and she brings a fresh perspective. How long? Zara asked. How long what? How long have you been sleeping with her? Nathan dropped his knife, and the clatter against his plate seemed to echo through the entire house. Zara, I'm not. Nathan. Her voice was steel now. Oh, long. He couldn't meet her eyes. 2 years. The number hit Zara like a physical blow. 2 years. That meant the affair had started shortly after Candace joined the company. It meant every business dinner, every late night at the office. Every time Zara had praised Candace's work ethic had been a lie. It meant her husband had been living a double life for nearly half of their marriage. She understands me in ways you never have, Nathan continued, apparently deciding that honesty was his best strategy now. We connect on a different level. She gets my vision for the company. Zara laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your vision? Nathan, you couldn't run that company for a week without me. I'm the one who landed Harrison Tech. I'm the one who developed the retention strategies that kept our clients through the recession. I'm the one who worked 16-hour days while you played golf with potential investors who never materialized. That's not fair. Fair? Zara stood up so quickly her chair scraped against the floor. You want to talk about fair? I made that company profitable while you took credit. I built relationships with every major client we have while you schmoozed at networking events. And now you're handing it all over to a woman whose biggest qualification is warming your bed. Nathan's face flushed red. Candace is brilliant. She has an MBA from Northwestern. She's not just somewhat, Nathan. Some mistress you're trying to legitimize by giving her my job? Zara moved toward the stairs. Save it. I've heard enough. Where are you going? To pack. But Nathan followed her upstairs. Zara, don't be dramatic. We can work this out. You're still VP of operations. Nothing has to change between us personally. Zara whirled around to face him in their bedroom doorway. Nothing has to change? You've been cheating on me for 2 years with an employee, you've stolen my career advancement, and you think nothing has to change. I never meant for it to happen this way. But it did happen this way. And now you have to live with the consequences. Zara pulled a suitcase from their closet. Both of you. As she began packing, Nathan sat on the edge of their bed, watching her fold clothes with mechanical precision. You're overreacting. Take some time, cool off, and then come back. We need you at the company. Zara paused in her packing. Need me? You need me? She turned to look at him, and Nathan was surprised to see she was smiling. It wasn't a warm smile. Nathan, you have no idea what you've just done. What do you mean? But Zara had already turned back to her packing. She wasn't about to explain to him that Harrison Tech's contract specifically required her involvement in all major decisions. Or that 3 other major clients had similar clauses. Or that the retention strategies she had developed weren't written down anywhere because she had never needed to document them for anyone else. Nathan and Candace were about to get exactly what they wanted, full control of Sterling and Associates. But they were also about to learn that getting what you want and being able to handle it are 2 very different things. As Zara zipped up her suitcase, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Not anger, not sadness, but clarity. For the first time in a long time, she knew exactly what she was going to do next. And Nathan wasn't going to like it one bit. I'll be back for the rest of my things this weekend, she said, heading toward the door. Zara, please. Let's talk about this like adults. She stopped at the bedroom doorway and looked back at her husband of 12 years. Adults don't cheat on their spouses and steal their careers, Nathan. But don't worry. You'll figure that out soon enough. Zara checked into the Marriott downtown, but she didn't spend the night crying or drinking wine like Nathan probably expected. Instead, she opened her laptop and began the most important work of her life. She had built Sterling and Associates once. Now she was going to tear it down from the inside out. But first she needed documentation. Zara had access to all company files as VP of Operations, and she intended to use that access while she still had it. She spent the entire night downloading client contracts, financial records, and correspondence. Every email exchange, every proposal, every strategy document that had her fingerprints on it. What she found was even more damaging than she had expected. Email threads showed Candace taking credit for ideas that Zara had originated. Meeting notes where Nathan presented Zara's strategies as collaborative efforts when they were entirely her creation. Financial projections that relied heavily on client relationships Zara had built single-handedly. Most importantly, she found the contracts. Harrison Tech's agreement specifically stated that Zara Williams must be involved in all strategic decisions and quarterly reviews. The Brennan Industries contract required her personal oversight of their marketing campaigns. Mitchell & Sons had a clause that gave them the right to terminate if their primary account manager left the company. Nathan and Candace had just inherited a company built on relationships they couldn't maintain and contracts they couldn't fulfill. But they didn't know that yet. The next morning, Zara showed up at the office as if nothing had changed. She greeted the confused staff with her usual professionalism, ignored the whispers, and went straight to her office. Several employees stopped by to express their shock about the CEO announcement, but Zara simply thanked them for their concern and redirected conversations back to work. "Are you okay?" asked Patricia from the accounting department. "I mean, everyone thought you were the obvious choice for CEO." "Sometimes things work out differently than we expect," Zara replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "But life goes on." Meanwhile, Nathan and Candace were holed up in the executive conference room, probably planning their new regime. Zara could see them through the glass walls, Candace gesturing animatedly while Nathan nodded along. They looked like two kids playing dress-up in their parents' clothes. Around noon, Zara's phone rang. It was Robert Harrison from Harrison Tech. "Zara, I need to ask you directly. Are you still going to be my point person on this account? Because the announcement yesterday mentioned a new CEO, but it didn't clarify your role in our partnership." Zara chose her words carefully. "Robert, I'm currently evaluating my position with the company. Can we schedule a lunch meeting tomorrow? I'd like to discuss your concerns in person." "Of course. But Zara, I need to be clear. We chose Sterling and Associates because of you. If that relationship changes, we'll need to reconsider our options." After hanging up, Zara felt a surge of satisfaction. Robert Harrison controlled a $950,000 annual contract, and he had just confirmed what she already knew. The clients weren't loyal to Sterling and Associates. They were loyal to her. Over the next 3 days, Zara had similar conversations with every major client. She didn't say anything inflammatory about Nathan or Candace. She simply asked questions and listened. What she heard confirmed her suspicions. The clients trusted her judgment, valued her expertise, and had serious concerns about working with anyone else. While conducting this quiet research, Zara also began reaching out to her professional network. She scheduled coffee meetings with former colleagues, lunch dates with industry contacts, and phone calls with clients from previous jobs. She framed these conversations as casual catch-ups, but she was actually laying the groundwork for something much bigger. By Friday afternoon, Zara had a complete picture of her situation. She controlled relationships worth over $2 million in annual revenue. She had the respect of every major player in their industry. And she had documented evidence of her contributions to every successful project Sterling and Associates had completed in the past 5 years. Most importantly, she had something Nathan and Candace didn't expect: a plan. That evening, she sat in her hotel room and drafted 3 documents: a resignation letter, a business plan, and a list of phone numbers. By Monday morning, Nathan Sterling was going to learn that stealing someone's career and marriage comes with a price tag he couldn't afford. But first, she was going to give him one final weekend to enjoy his victory. Because once Zara put her plan into motion, Nathan and Candace were going to be too busy trying to save their sinking ship to enjoy anything else. As she closed her laptop, Zara felt a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in years. For too long, she had been the supportive wife, the loyal employee, the team player who put everyone else's needs before her own. But Nathan had changed the rules of the game when he chose Candace over her. Now Zara was going to show him how the game was really played. Monday morning arrived with the kind of crisp clarity that Zara took as a good omen. She dressed in her sharpest business suit, a navy blue ensemble that made her feel powerful, and drove to meet Robert Harrison at the upscale bistro where they often conducted business lunches. Robert was already waiting when she arrived, his silver hair perfectly styled and his expression serious. At 62, he had built Harrison Tech from a small software company into a multi-million-dollar enterprise, and he didn't waste time on pleasantries when business was at stake. "Zara, I'll be direct," he said after they ordered. "What's happening at Sterling and Associates? Because from where I sit, it looks like amateur hour." Zara sipped her water carefully, choosing her words. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I got a call yesterday from your new CEO introducing herself. Candace Morrison, I think her name was. She wanted to schedule a meeting to discuss our partnership moving forward. Problem is, she couldn't answer basic questions about our current projects." Robert leaned forward, his voice lowering. "Zara, she didn't even know we're launching phase 2 of the customer retention program next month. The program you designed. The program that's already showing a 12% increase in client satisfaction." Zara nodded but remained silent, letting Robert continue. "So I'll ask you again. What's really happening over there? Because if Sterling and Associates can't maintain the level of service you've been providing, I need to know now." This was the moment Zara had been waiting for. "Robert, can I speak to you off the record? As someone who's worked with you for 5 years and values our professional relationship." "Of course. I'm planning to leave Sterling and Associates. I can't discuss the details, but I'm not comfortable with the company's new direction." Robert's expression darkened. "When?" "Soon. Very soon." He was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. "Zara, I need to be clear about something. Harrison Tech didn't hire Sterling and Associates. We hired you. The contract might have the company's name on it, but every decision maker at my firm knows you're the reason this partnership works. I understand that and I appreciate your confidence in my work." "No, I don't think you do understand." Robert pulled out his phone and scrolled through his emails. "Let me read you something. This is from our quarterly board meeting minutes from 6 months ago." He cleared his throat and read, "The Harrison Tech board unanimously agrees that Zara Williams is essential to the success of our current marketing strategy. Her innovative approach to customer retention has exceeded all projected outcomes. The board recommends that any future contracts with Sterling and Associates include a clause requiring Ms. Williams' direct involvement in strategic decisions." Zara's eyes widened. She had known the clients valued her work, but she hadn't realized how specifically they had documented that value. "Robert, I had no idea. There's more. We're not the only ones. I've talked to James Mitchell at Mitchell & Sons, and Susan Brennan at Brennan Industries. We all have similar language in our contracts. Zara, you're not just another account manager to us. You're the architect of strategies that are making us millions of dollars." The lunch continued for another hour, with Robert explaining the full scope of how much the clients relied on Zara's expertise. By the time they finished, Zara had a complete understanding of her true value in the marketplace. It was significantly higher than she had even imagined. "So what are you planning to do?" Robert asked as they prepared to leave. "I'm going to start my own consulting firm. I can't compete directly with Sterling and Associates because of non-compete clauses, but I can offer strategic consulting services to companies looking to improve their customer retention and satisfaction rates." Robert smiled for the first time during their lunch. "What if I told you that Harrison Tech has been considering bringing those services in-house? We've been looking for a consultant who really understands our business model." "I'd say that sounds like an interesting opportunity." "Good. Because I'd like to offer you a contract. 6 months, renewable based on performance. $200,000 plus performance bonuses. You'd be working directly with our executive team to develop retention strategies for our entire client base, not just the current project." Zara nearly choked on her coffee. $200,000 for 6 months was more than she made in a full year at Sterling and Associates, where Nathan had consistently refused her requests for salary increases despite her contributions to the company's success. "Robert, that's incredibly generous, but I haven't even officially started my consulting firm yet." "Then start it. I'll have our legal team draw up an independent contractor agreement. We can have you up and running within 2 weeks if you're interested." By the time Zara left the restaurant, she felt like she was walking on air. Not only did she have validation that her skills were valued in the marketplace, but she also had a concrete offer that would make her financially independent within months rather than years. But more importantly, she now understood exactly what Nathan and Candace were about to lose. The contracts Robert had described weren't just valuable, they were irreplaceable. And without Zara there to maintain those relationships and execute the strategies, Sterling and Associates was about to discover that their new CEO couldn't deliver what the clients were paying for. That afternoon, Zara called 3 other major clients and had similar conversations. By the end of the day, she had preliminary offers from 2 more companies and strong interest from a third. Her consulting firm was going to launch with more business than most companies see in their first year. As she returned to her hotel room that evening, Zara reflected on how much her life had changed in just 1 week. 7 days ago, she had been the undervalued wife and employee, grateful for whatever scraps of recognition Nathan threw her way. Now she was about to become an independent businesswoman with clients who valued her expertise and were willing to pay premium rates for her services. Nathan had thought he was pushing her out of the way to make room for his mistress. Instead, he had forced Zara to discover her true worth in the marketplace. And that discovery was going to cost him everything. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of legal documents, office visits, and strategic planning. Zara had never moved so fast or felt so energized about work. While Nathan and Candace were probably settling into their new roles at Sterling & Associates, Zara was building something that belonged entirely to her. She found office space in a sleek building downtown, just 6 blocks from Sterling & Associates' location. The irony wasn't lost on her. Soon she'd be close enough to watch her former company struggle, but far enough away to avoid any awkward encounters. The space was perfect. A corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows, room for a small conference table, and enough space to expand if her business grew quickly. The rent was higher than she had initially budgeted, but with the Harrison Tech contract already signed and 2 more deals pending, she could afford to invest in a professional image. Williams Strategic Consulting, she said out loud as she stood in her empty office, testing how the name sounded. Felt right. Clean, professional, and unmistakably hers. Her lawyer, Jennifer Rodriguez, had worked quickly to establish the business properly. LLC paperwork, business licenses, professional liability insurance, and most importantly, a careful review of her non-compete agreement with Sterling & Associates. The good news is that your non-compete is narrowly written, Jennifer explained during one of their meetings. It prevents you from starting a competing marketing firm or poaching clients directly. But consulting work falls into a different category, especially if the clients approach you rather than the other way around. And if Nathan tries to challenge it? He'd have a hard time proving damages if his clients are choosing to work with you based on your expertise rather than any wrongful solicitation. Plus, from what you've told me about the company's current situation, he's going to have bigger problems to deal with soon. Jennifer was right. Through her network of industry contacts, Zara was hearing rumors about Sterling & Associates that confirmed her predictions. Candace had apparently tried to implement several innovative strategies that were actually outdated methods the company had abandoned years earlier. There were whispers about confused clients and missed deadlines. But Zara wasn't relying on gossip. She was too busy building her own success. The Harrison Tech contract had officially started, and Robert was already talking about expanding their arrangement. The work was challenging and rewarding in ways that reminded Zara why she had fallen in love with marketing strategy in the first place. This retention analysis is brilliant, Robert told her during their first official meeting as consultant and client. You've identified patterns we never would have noticed internally. The recommendations alone are worth the entire contract fee. 2 days later, Mitchell & Sons called. James Mitchell was direct as always. Zara, we need to talk. Sterling & Associates sent someone over yesterday to handle our quarterly review. Nice enough person, but she couldn't answer our questions about the campaign metrics. We need someone who understands our account. James, you know I can't interfere with your relationship with Sterling & Associates. What if we terminated that relationship? What if we hired you directly as a consultant to handle our account strategy? Within a week, Zara had her second major contract. Mitchell & Sons was paying her $150,000 for 6 months of strategic consulting, with an option to extend. Combined with the Harrison Tech deal, Zara was already earning more as a consultant than she had ever made as VP of Operations. But the most satisfying call came from an unexpected source. Patricia from Sterling & Associates accounting department called her personal cell phone one evening. Zara, I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I got your number from the company directory before things got complicated. Of course, Patricia. How are you? Honestly? Worried about my job. Things are not good here. Can we meet for coffee? Off the record. They met the next morning at a cafe halfway between their offices. Patricia looked stressed, her usually perfect appearance slightly disheveled. Zara, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but people are panicking. 3 major clients have already called asking about contract termination procedures. Candace is trying to handle everything herself, but she doesn't understand half of what you did for the company. Patricia lowered her voice. Yesterday she asked me to explain the Harrison Tech billing structure. Zara, you set up that entire system 2 years ago. It's documented, but she couldn't understand the documentation. She's been calling clients trying to reconnect with them, but she's asking basic questions that make the company look incompetent. Patricia, I can't really comment on internal company matters. I know. But I wanted you to know that some of us are looking for other jobs. Tom in accounting, Jennifer from HR, even some of the junior staff. Nobody wants to be there when this ship sinks. Is it really that bad? Patricia nodded grimly. Nathan hasn't been in the office much. Word is he's trying to set up meetings with clients, but most of them are saying they need to reassess their vendor relationships before scheduling anything. And Candace, she's in over her head, but she won't admit it. She keeps talking about implementing fresh strategies and taking the company in new directions, but she doesn't seem to understand what the current strategies actually accomplish. After Patricia left, Zara sat in the cafe for another hour, processing what she had learned. Sterling and Associates wasn't just losing clients, it was imploding. The employees were losing confidence, the clients were losing trust, and Nathan was apparently too embarrassed to face the situation directly. But Zara felt no satisfaction in their failure. Instead, she felt a sense of clarity about her own path forward. She wasn't building Williams Strategic Consulting to destroy Sterling and Associates. She was building it to create something better, something that belonged entirely to her. That afternoon, she got a call from Susan Brennan at Brennan Industries. Zara, I need to be direct with you. We're terminating our contract with Sterling and Associates. The question is, are you available to take over our account as an independent consultant? By the end of the week, Zara had 3 major contracts worth a combined $500,000 over 6 months. She was booked solid, financially secure, and professionally fulfilled in ways she had forgotten were possible. As she sat in her new office that Friday evening, looking out at the city lights, Zara realized she had already won. She didn't need Nathan or Candace to fail for her to succeed. Their failures were just a bonus. Zara had been working from her hotel room for 2 weeks, officially still employed by Sterling and Associates but effectively running her consulting business full-time. She knew this arrangement couldn't continue indefinitely, and Friday morning seemed like the perfect time to make it official. She dressed carefully that morning, choosing a black pantsuit that made her feel both professional and powerful. Today wasn't about emotion or drama. It was about business. She arrived at the Sterling and Associates office at exactly 9 a.m., when she knew Nathan and Candace would both be in their morning meeting. The office felt different. The energy was off. Several employees looked up when she walked in, their expressions a mixture of relief and anxiety. Clearly, word had spread about the client problems, and people were nervous about the company's future. Zara? Tom from accounting called out as she passed his desk. Thank God you're here. Do you know anything about the Harrison Tech billing discrepancy? Candace asked me to look into it, but I can't make sense of your notes from last quarter. I'm sure you'll figure it out, Tom, Zara replied with a professional smile. You're very capable. She went straight to her office and closed the door. From her briefcase, she pulled out a single sheet of paper, her resignation letter. She had drafted it carefully with Jennifer's help, ensuring it was professional, brief, and legally bulletproof. Dear Nathan, it began. Please accept this letter as my formal notification of resignation from my position as Vice President of Operations at Sterling and Associates, effective immediately. I will be transitioning to pursue independent consulting opportunities. I wish the company success in its future endeavors. Sincerely, Zara Williams. No explanations. No accusations. No drama. Just a clean, professional exit. Zara spent the next hour cleaning out her desk, packing her personal items into a small box. She left behind all company property, all files, and all documentation. She wanted no questions about her professionalism or ethics. At 10:15, Nathan's meeting ended. Zara watched through her office window as he walked Candace to her new corner office, their heads close together in conversation. Candace looked confident, gesturing animatedly as she talked. Nathan was nodding along, but Zara could see tension in his shoulders that hadn't been there 2 weeks ago. She waited until Nathan was alone in his office before knocking on his door. Come in, he called. Nathan looked up as she entered, and she saw surprise flash across his face. Zara, I was wondering when you'd be back in the office. We need to discuss your role in the new company structure. Zara placed the resignation letter on his desk without sitting down. That won't be necessary. Nathan stared at the paper for a long moment before picking it up. As he read, his face went pale. Zara, what is this? You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. But you can't just leave. We need you. The clients expect continuity, and there are projects that require your oversight. Nathan, you made it very clear 2 weeks ago that my services were no longer needed in a leadership capacity. I'm simply accepting that assessment and moving on to opportunities where my skills are valued. Nathan stood up, moving around his desk toward her. Zara, I know you're upset about the CEO decision, but we can work something out. Maybe a different title or additional compensation. This isn't a negotiation, Nathan. I'm informing you of my decision, not asking for your approval. You can't do this to the company. To us. His voice was rising now, and Zara could see panic creeping in. We're married, for God's sake. We built this business together. We were married, Zara corrected. And yes, we did build this business together. But you decided to give my position to your mistress. Now you can figure out how to run it with her. For the first time since she had known him, Nathan looked genuinely afraid. Zara, please. Let's talk about this rationally. What do you want? More money? Better title? We can make Candace co-CEO if that helps. Nathan, stop. Zara's voice was calm but firm. You made your choice. I'm making mine. There's nothing to discuss. She turned toward the door, but Nathan grabbed her arm. You can't leave me with this mess. Half our clients are already asking questions, and I don't know how to handle their concerns without you. Zara looked down at his hand on her arm until he released her. Then you should have thought of that before you decided I wasn't CEO material. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. Through your actions, if not your words. Zara picked up her box of personal items. I'll have my attorney contact you about the divorce papers. Nathan's face went white. Divorce? Zara, you're overreacting. We can fix this. We can fix everything. Some things can't be fixed, Nathan. Some betrayals are too deep to recover from. As she walked toward the door, Nathan called out desperately, What about the Harrison Tech contract? They specifically asked for you in the meeting next week. Zara paused at the doorway. Then you better hope Candace is as brilliant as you think she is. She left Nathan standing in his office and walked calmly through the main workspace. Conversations stopped as employees realized what was happening. A few people stood up from their desks, looking like they wanted to say something, but Zara kept walking. In the elevator, she finally allowed herself to breathe. The hardest part was over. She had officially severed all ties with Sterling and Associates and everything it represented. No more working in Nathan's shadow. No more pretending that her contributions didn't matter. No more watching her husband flirt with his mistress in company meetings. As the elevator descended, Zara's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Robert Harrison. Looking forward to our strategy session this afternoon. The executive team is excited to hear your recommendations for the expansion project. Zara smiled as she typed back, See you at 2 p.m. I have some innovative ideas that I think will exceed your expectations. When the elevator doors opened in the lobby, Zara walked out into her new life. Behind her, Sterling and Associates was about to discover what it really cost to lose someone who had been holding the company together. Ahead of her, Williams Strategic Consulting was waiting to be built into something extraordinary. But first, she had one more stop to make. She pulled out her phone and dialed Jennifer Rodriguez. Jennifer, it's done. I need you to file the divorce papers today. And can you also send a letter to Sterling and Associates informing them that I'll be starting my consulting business? I want everything documented properly. Of course. How do you feel? Zara looked back at the building that had housed her career for 12 years. Free. The first domino fell on Monday morning at 8:47 a.m. Zara was in her new office reviewing client files for the week ahead, when her phone rang. The caller ID showed Harrison Tech. Zara, it's Robert. I just got off a very strange phone call with someone named Candace from Sterling and Associates. She was trying to schedule our weekly strategy meeting, but she couldn't explain why you weren't going to be there. I resigned from Sterling and Associates last Friday. I'm now working independently as a strategic consultant. I see. Robert's tone was businesslike but pleased. Well, that simplifies things for us. We'll need to terminate our contract with Sterling and Associates immediately. Our legal team will handle the paperwork today. Robert, I want to make sure you understand that I can't discuss. Zara, let me stop you there. This isn't about your former employer. This is about Harrison Tech's needs. We hired Sterling and Associates specifically to get access to your expertise. If you're no longer there, then they can't fulfill the terms of our agreement. By noon, the second domino had fallen. James Mitchell called personally. "Zara, I won't waste your time with pleasantries. Mitchell & Sons is terminating our contract with Sterling & Associates effective today. We'd like to transfer the entire account to Williams Strategic Consulting if you can handle the workload." "James, I appreciate your confidence, but that's a significant account. Are you sure you want to make such a quick decision?" "I'm sure." "Yesterday, some junior associate from Sterling & Associates called trying to schedule our monthly review. When I asked about the quarterly projections you've been working on, she had no idea what I was talking about. That tells me everything I need to know about their current capabilities." The third call came at 2:15 p.m. Susan Brennan from Brennan Industries. "Zara, I'm calling to inform you that we're exercising the termination clause in our Sterling & Associates contract. The woman who called me this morning, Candace something, couldn't answer basic questions about our campaign metrics. We can't work with people who don't understand our business." By the end of Monday, 3 major contracts worth a combined $1.2 million annually had been pulled from Sterling & Associates. But more importantly, all 3 companies had requested proposals from Williams Strategic Consulting to take over their accounts immediately. Zara worked until midnight that Monday, drafting proposals and calculating capacity. By Tuesday morning, she had formal offers from all 3 companies. The combined value of the new contracts was $600,000 for the next 6 months, with renewal options that could make her annual income higher than Nathan's salary as owner of Sterling & Associates. But the real shock came Tuesday afternoon when Patricia called. "Zara, I know I shouldn't be telling you this, but I thought you should know. Nathan called an emergency staff meeting this morning. 3 major clients terminated their contracts yesterday, and 2 more are reassessing their vendor relationships. That's over 60% of our revenue gone in one day." "Patricia, I really can't." I know. But that's not why I'm calling. I'm calling because I wanted to let you know that Tom, Jennifer, and I are all putting in our 2 weeks' notice. We've been talking and we don't think Sterling & Associates is going to survive this. We wanted to ask, do you think your consulting firm might need administrative support as you grow?" That evening, Zara sat in her apartment. She had finally moved out of the hotel and tried to process how quickly everything was changing. In less than a week, she had gone from unemployed to overbooked. Sterling & Associates was hemorrhaging clients and employees, while Williams Strategic Consulting was growing faster than she had ever imagined possible. Her phone rang at 8 p.m. The caller ID showed Nathan's number. She let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. "Zara, we need to talk. This is getting out of hand. The clients are terminating contracts because they think you're sabotaging us. I know you're angry, but you're destroying everything we built together. Call me back, please." Zara deleted the message without responding. She had never contacted any of Sterling & Associates clients directly. She had never said anything negative about the company or its current leadership. The clients were making their own decisions based on their own experiences with Candace's work. But Nathan's message told her something important. He still didn't understand what was really happening. He thought this was about revenge, about her trying to hurt him personally. He couldn't see that this was simply the natural consequence of his own decisions. Wednesday brought 2 more contract terminations and a call from the building management company that leased office space to Sterling & Associates. Apparently, Nathan was asking about breaking his lease early due to downsizing requirements. By Thursday, Zara was getting calls from employees at Sterling & Associates asking about job opportunities with her growing consulting firm. By Friday, she heard through industry contacts that Nathan was trying to sell the company, but potential buyers were backing out once they learned about the client exodus. That Friday evening, Zara worked late in her office, reviewing proposals for 2 new clients who had approached her after hearing about her success with Harrison Tech. As she looked out her window at the city lights, she realized that Sterling & Associates wasn't the only thing that had fallen apart. The entire life she had built around Nathan, the house they shared, the social circle that revolved around the company, the future she had planned as his business partner, all of it was gone. But instead of feeling sad about the loss, Zara felt energized. For the first time in years, she was building something that belonged entirely to her. Something that no one could take away or hand over to someone else. Her phone buzzed with a text from Robert Harrison. "The board reviewed your expansion proposal. They want to discuss a 12-month contract extension worth $400,000. Can you meet Monday morning?" Zara smiled as she typed back, "I'll be there." As she packed up her briefcase and prepared to leave the office, Zara realized that the domino effect Nathan was experiencing was just beginning. But her own domino effect, the one that was building Williams Strategic Consulting into a major player in the consulting world, was just getting started too. 3 weeks after Zara's resignation, Sterling and Associates was in freefall. What had started as a few concerned client calls had become a full-scale exodus. By Monday morning, the company had lost 7 major contracts, 2/3 of its staff, and any pretense that the transition to new leadership was going smoothly. Nathan hadn't slept properly in days. He spent his mornings fielding panicked calls from remaining clients, his afternoons trying to convince former employees to come back, and his evenings staring at financial projections that showed the company would be bankrupt within 6 months if the bleeding didn't stop. Candace wasn't handling the pressure any better. The confident, innovative leader she had portrayed herself as had crumbled under the weight of actually running a business. She spent most of her time locked in her office, frantically Googling marketing strategies and trying to make sense of files that Zara had organized in ways that made perfect sense to clients but were incomprehensible to anyone else. "Nathan, we need to do something," Candace said during their morning meeting on Tuesday. Her usual polished appearance was showing cracks, her hair wasn't perfectly styled, and there were dark circles under her eyes. "The Brennan Industries people are asking for documentation about campaign performance metrics, and I can't find half the files they're referencing." "What do you mean you can't find them?" "Everything should be in the client folders." "The client folders are there, but they reference other systems. Something called the ZW database, and retention protocols that I've never seen before. I think Zara kept some information on her personal computer or in systems that weren't shared with the rest of the staff." Nathan rubbed his temples, feeling a headache building. "Try calling Tom in accounting. He might know where." He stopped mid-sentence, remembering. "Right. Tom quit last week." This had been happening constantly. Nathan would try to solve a problem by delegating to someone, only to remember that person had resigned. In 3 weeks, Sterling and Associates had lost its entire accounting department, most of its administrative staff, and 2 of its 3 junior associates. The only employees left were a handful of people who were too junior to handle complex client issues and too loyal or too afraid of the job market to quit. "Maybe we should call Zara," Candace suggested quietly, "just to ask about the file systems. She might be willing to help with the transition if we explain the situation." Nathan had been avoiding this suggestion for days, but they were running out of options. "Fine. I'll try calling her." But when Nathan dialed Zara's number, it went straight to a message saying the number was no longer in service. He tried her old email address and got an automatic reply that the account had been closed. Finally, he tried reaching out through LinkedIn, only to discover that Zara had blocked him on all social media platforms. "She's completely cut off all communication," he told Candace. "We can't reach her directly." "What about through her lawyer? For the divorce proceedings?" Nathan winced. The divorce papers had been served the previous week, and they were as clean and straightforward as Zara's resignation letter. No demands for alimony, no fight over assets, no bitter custody battles over anything. She just wanted out, quickly and completely. Her lawyer said all communication has to go through legal channels and only about the divorce. Nothing related to business. That afternoon, Nathan made a decision he had been dreading. He called Robert Harrison directly, hoping to salvage at least one major client relationship. "Robert, it's Nathan Sterling. I wanted to touch base about your account and address any concerns you might have about our service transition." "Nathan, I appreciate the call, but I think there's been a misunderstanding. We don't have any concerns about service transition because we're no longer working with Sterling and Associates. We terminated that contract 3 weeks ago." "Yes, I know there was some confusion about Zara's departure, but I wanted to assure you that we have capable people who can handle your account." "Nathan, let me be direct with you. We didn't hire Sterling and Associates. We hired Zara Williams. When she left your company, our business relationship ended. It's that simple. But surely we can work out some kind of arrangement. Maybe a reduced fee structure while we rebuild the relationship, or a trial period to demonstrate our capabilities." "Nathan, I'm going to stop you right there. We're very happy with Williams Strategic Consulting. Zara is handling our account now, and the level of service has actually improved since she went independent. I wish you the best, but Harrison Tech has moved on." The call ended with Nathan staring at his phone, finally understanding the full scope of what had happened. The clients hadn't left because they were angry about internal company drama. They had left because, from their perspective, the person they had hired to solve their problems was no longer available to solve their problems. By Thursday, the situation had become desperate enough that Nathan swallowed his pride and asked his father to come out of retirement to help save the company. "Son, I built this business over 20 years, Nathan's father said as they sat in the conference room that used to house strategy meetings. "But I built it with people who understood the work. What you've got now is a company with no institutional knowledge, no client relationships, and no clear path forward. So what do I do? You've got 3 options. 1. Find a way to get Zara back. 2. Find someone else with her skills and client relationships, which could take years and might not work anyway. 3. Accept that this version of the company is finished and figure out how to shut it down with some dignity intact. What about option 4, rebuild from scratch? His father shook his head sadly. Nathan, you can't rebuild client trust once it's been lost. And you can't rebuild a reputation for expertise when the person with the expertise is working for the competition. That evening, Nathan sat alone in his office, looking at the framed photos on his desk. There was one from the company's 10th anniversary party, showing him and Zara cutting a cake shaped like their logo. Another from a client appreciation dinner where Zara was receiving an award for outstanding service. A third from their wedding day, both of them smiling and looking toward a future they thought they would build together. For the first time since this nightmare began, Nathan allowed himself to really think about what he had lost. Not just the business but Zara herself. The woman who had been his partner in every sense of the word. The person who had made him look smart in client meetings, who had solved problems he didn't even know existed, who had been the backbone of everything they had accomplished together. He had thrown it all away for what? For Candace, who was currently hiding in her office, overwhelmed by responsibilities she had claimed she was ready to handle? For the excitement of an affair that now seemed shallow and meaningless compared to what he had given up? Nathan pulled out his phone and started to dial Zara's old number before remembering it was disconnected. Then he opened his laptop and began typing an email, before remembering that her email account was closed too. Finally, he just sat there in the empty office, surrounded by the ruins of everything he and Zara had built together, understanding too late that some mistakes can't be undone and some betrayals can't be forgiven. 6 weeks after leaving Sterling and Associates, Zara was living a life she had never imagined possible. Williams Strategic Consulting occupied a full floor of the downtown building, with 8 employees and a waiting list of potential clients. What had started as a desperate escape from her husband's betrayal had become the most successful period of her professional life. Zara, the Harrison Tech expansion project results are in, announced Rachel, her new office manager. Rachel was one of 3 former Sterling and Associates employees who had joined Williams Strategic Consulting, bringing institutional knowledge and client relationships that made the transition seamless. And Zara looked up from the proposal she was reviewing for a potential new client in Chicago. Customer retention is up 28% across all product lines. Client satisfaction scores have increased by 15 points. And they're projecting a revenue increase of $2.3 million annually based on your recommendations. Zara smiled but didn't feel surprised. This was exactly the kind of result she had been delivering at Sterling and Associates for years. The difference was that now she was getting proper credit and compensation for her work. Robert wants to discuss expanding your contract to include their West Coast operations, Rachel continued. He's talking about a potential $800,000 annual arrangement. Before Zara could respond, her phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize, but when she answered, the voice was familiar. Zara? This is Jennifer Patterson, head of marketing for Stellar Industries. We got your name from Robert Harrison. He said you were the person to call about customer retention strategies. Zara had heard of Stellar Industries. They were a Fortune 500 company with operations across 12 states. I'd be happy to discuss your needs, Jennifer. What kind of challenges are you facing? We're hemorrhaging customers in our premium service tier. 20% annual churn rate, which is killing our profitability. Robert said you took Harrison Tech's retention rate from 18% to 6% in less than 4 months. That's correct. We implemented a comprehensive retention strategy that addressed both customer satisfaction and communication protocols. We'd like to hire you to do something similar for us. Can you handle a project of this scope? We're talking about analyzing retention patterns for over 50,000 customers across multiple service lines. Zara looked around her office, mentally calculating her team's capacity. It would be the biggest project Williams Strategic Consulting had tackled, but it was exactly the kind of challenge she thrived on. Yes, we can handle that. Let's schedule a meeting to discuss your specific requirements and timeline. After hanging up, Zara realized she would need to hire more staff soon. The business was growing faster than she had projected, and she was already turning down smaller projects to focus on the higher value contracts. That afternoon, she had lunch with Patricia, who had become her assistant director of operations at Williams Strategic Consulting. They were reviewing staffing plans when Patricia's phone buzzed with a text message. Sorry, that's Tom, Patricia said, glancing at her phone. He's been keeping tabs on what's happening at Sterling and Associates. Apparently, Nathan is trying to sell the company, but nobody wants to buy it. Really? Tom heard through a friend who works at the bank that handles their business loans. Sterling and Associates is 3 months behind on their lease payments, and they've defaulted on their line of credit. Nathan's been trying to find investors, but when potential buyers look at the client list and see what they've lost in the past 2 months, they run the other way. Zara felt a complicated mix of emotions hearing this news. She wasn't happy about Nathan's failure, but she wasn't sad about it either. It was simply the logical consequence of his choices. What about Candace? Zara found herself asking, though she wasn't sure why she cared. From what Tom hears, she quit 2 weeks ago. Apparently, the stress was too much and she decided to move back to Minnesota to work for her father's insurance company. Nathan's been trying to run everything himself, but... Patricia shrugged. You know Nathan. He never understood the day-to-day operations. That evening, Zara worked late in her office, putting finishing touches on the Stellar Industries proposal. As she looked out her window at the city lights, she reflected on how much her life had changed. 6 months ago, she had been the unappreciated wife and undervalued employee. Now she was the CEO of her own rapidly growing company, with clients who respected her expertise and compensated her accordingly. Her personal life was changing too. 3 weeks earlier, she had been introduced to Dr. Cameron Brooks, a psychology professor at the local university, at a professional networking event. Cameron was intelligent, funny, and refreshingly uncomplicated. He admired Zara's business success without feeling threatened by it, and he had been honest from the beginning about his interest in getting to know her better. They had been on 4 dates so far: dinner, a museum exhibit, a jazz concert, and a hiking trip that had ended with them talking for hours about their goals and dreams. Cameron made Zara laugh in ways she had forgotten were possible. More importantly, he listened to her ideas and asked thoughtful questions that showed he valued her intelligence. You know what I find most attractive about you? Cameron had said during their last dinner together. It's not just that you're successful. It's that you rebuilt your entire life around your own values instead of letting circumstances define you. As Zara packed up her briefcase that night, she realized Cameron was right. She had taken the worst betrayal of her life and used it as motivation to build something better. Nathan had thought he was pushing her aside to make room for his mistress. Instead, he had forced Zara to discover her true potential in the marketplace. Her phone buzzed with a text from Cameron. Hope your day went well. Looking forward to our weekend plans. You're inspiring, Zara Williams. She smiled as she typed back. Thank you. I'm looking forward to it too. Walking out of her office that night, Zara felt genuinely happy for the first time in years. Not because Nathan's company was failing, but because her own company was thriving. Not because her ex-husband was struggling, but because she had found her own path to success. Williams Strategic Consulting was no longer just a business. It was proof that sometimes the best thing someone can do for you is to underestimate you. Nathan had given Zara the greatest gift possible, the opportunity to discover what she was truly capable of when she stopped trying to make other people's dreams come true and started building her own. 1 year after walking away from Sterling and Associates, Zara stood in the conference room of Williams Strategic Consulting, looking at a presentation that would have seemed impossible 12 months earlier. The company now employed 15 people, occupied 2 full floors of the downtown building, and had just been named one of the region's fastest-growing consulting firms by the Business Journal. The Stellar Industries project exceeded all performance targets, Rachel announced to the assembled team. Customer retention improved by 35%, and they've signed a 2-year extension worth $1.6 million annually. The room erupted in applause. Zara had built not just a successful business, but a team of people who genuinely enjoyed working together and took pride in delivering exceptional results for their clients. And I have one more piece of news, Rachel continued with a smile. Forbes called this morning. They want to feature Zara in their Entrepreneurs to Watch section next month. More applause, and this time Zara felt herself blushing. A year ago, she had been invisible in her own company. Now she was being recognized as a leader in her industry. After the meeting ended, Zara returned to her corner office to find Cameron waiting with a bouquet of flowers and a bottle of champagne. Celebrating something? She asked, kissing him hello. Your success, of course, but also something else. Cameron's smile was mysterious. I have news of my own. Over the past year, Cameron had become not just her romantic partner, but her closest friend and biggest supporter. He had celebrated every business milestone with genuine enthusiasm, and he had been there during the few difficult moments when the stress of building a company from scratch had felt overwhelming. The university offered me the department chair position, Cameron announced. I'll be leading the psychology program starting next fall. Cameron, that's wonderful. You deserve it completely. There's more. They're also offering me a research sabbatical next summer. 4 months to work on my book project with full salary and benefits. Zara hugged him tightly. I'm so proud of you. Actually, I was hoping you might consider taking some time off too. Maybe we could travel together. See some places we've talked about. Spend time together without work deadlines hanging over us. The idea of taking a real vacation, something she hadn't done in years, was incredibly appealing. Williams' strategic consulting was stable enough now to run without her constant supervision, and she had built a strong management team that could handle operations for a few months. I love that idea, she said. Where were you thinking? Italy, maybe. Or we could do that photography tour through New Zealand you mentioned. Or both if you're feeling adventurous. As they talked about travel plans, Zara's phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize. This is Zara Williams. Ms. Williams, this is Michael Chen from Apex Corporate Solutions. We're a business brokerage firm, and we have a rather unusual request. We have a client who's interested in potentially acquiring your consulting business. Would you be open to a preliminary conversation? Zara was surprised. She had never considered selling Williams' strategic consulting, especially not when it was growing so rapidly. I appreciate the call, Michael, but I'm not interested in selling the company. I understand, and I apologize for the cold call. But our client specifically requested that we reach out to you. They're offering a very substantial sum for an acquisition. 8 figures, Ms. Williams. 8 figures. That meant at least $10 million. For a company she had started with nothing just 1 year ago. Who is your client? I'm not at liberty to share that information unless you're interested in hearing the full proposal. But I can tell you that they're very impressed with your growth trajectory and your client retention rates. After hanging up, Zara sat quietly for a moment, processing the call. Someone wanted to buy her company for enough money to ensure she never had to worry about financial security again. It was tempting, but it also felt wrong. Williams' strategic consulting wasn't just a business to her, it was proof of her own capabilities, evidence that she could build something extraordinary when given the opportunity. What was that about? Cameron asked. Someone wants to buy the company. For a lot of money? What are you going to think about it? I don't think there's anything to think about. This company is mine. I built it from nothing, and I'm not ready to give it up. Cameron smiled and kissed her forehead. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. That evening, they celebrated both of their career milestones at their favorite restaurant. Over dinner, Cameron became serious. Zara, I want to ask you something, and I want you to know there's no pressure behind this question. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Zara's eyes widened. I love you. I love your ambition, your intelligence, your kindness, and your strength. I love that you built an empire out of nothing but determination and skill. I love that you chose to create something better rather than seeking revenge against people who wronged you. Cameron opened the box to reveal a stunning but understated diamond ring. I'm not asking you to change your name or your career or anything about the life you've built. I'm asking if you want to build the next chapter of that life with me. Zara looked at the ring, then at Cameron's hopeful face, then back at the ring. A year ago, she had been married to a man who didn't value her contributions and didn't respect her abilities. Now she was being proposed to by someone who loved her exactly as she was. Yes, she said without hesitation. Absolutely yes. As Cameron slipped the ring onto her finger, Zara thought about the journey that had brought her to this moment. Nathan's betrayal had been the most painful experience of her life, but it had also been the catalyst for everything good that had happened since. If he hadn't chosen Candace over her, she never would have discovered her true potential. If he hadn't forced her out of Sterling and Associates, she never would have built Williams' strategic consulting. If her old life hadn't fallen apart, she never would have met Cameron. 3 days later, Zara heard through industry contacts that Sterling and Associates had finally closed its doors permanently. Nathan had been unable to find a buyer, and the company had dissolved with significant debts. She felt no satisfaction in this news, only a sense of closure. That same week, Williams Strategic Consulting landed its biggest contract yet. A $3 million, 3-year deal with a multinational corporation looking to overhaul their customer retention strategies across all divisions. As Zara signed the contract, she realized that her success wasn't about proving anything to Nathan or getting revenge against the people who had wronged her. It was about proving something to herself, that she was capable of building something extraordinary when she stopped waiting for other people's permission to succeed. The girl who had discovered her husband's affair through a company email was gone. In her place was a woman who had built her own empire, found love with someone who valued her completely, and created a future limited only by her own ambitions. And that future looked absolutely brilliant.